Hello, and welcome to the session dedicated to helping you maximize your investment into modular products that are managed in Windchill. We'll be taking all the goodness that is Windchill platform structures or options of variance, combining that with powerful Windchill capabilities for visualizing product structures to result in some pretty powerful ways to collaborate and help you bring to market your products faster. So, for those who've not met me before, my name is Robbie Morrison. I'm the product manager responsible for Creo View, visualization services in Windchill, including all the tie-in points to platform structures, as well as the WebGL viewer that you see in most of our web products for the ability to view 3D product representations. So that includes in Windchill, ThingWorx, as well as Arbortext products. What we're going to begin with today on our journey is really just a reflection on what product platforms mean in Windchill. What does it mean to manage those in Windchill? And then look at how and what kind of capabilities you can really capitalize on that investment of that in Windchill by helping it tap into the rest of your organization when you're talking and engaging on these product platforms. Lastly, and probably most excitingly, we're really going to focus on a sneak peek of some brand new features that are coming out in Windchill 12.0.2.0 that will help you take a leap forward in managing your large configurable products in Windchill. So, what are we talking about when we're saying product platforms? Ultimately, it's a couple things. It starts with a strategy. When we're talking about product platforms, it's ultimately a strategy that your company has embarked on to help manage and deliver a diverse set of products to market off of a configurable core product by reusing large elements of that kind of core product definition and deriving set of rules on how and when you change components in that. So by definition, that platform has to not only include the elements of that configurable product that you want to reuse, but also the architectural rules that govern when you use particular components and when you use others or alternates to that solution based on either requirements of what you're trying to deliver to market or regulatory rules, whatever the reason might be. So, why would you go down a platform's product strategy? Well, really, it's all about delivering your product to market faster with less development time, but still meeting the same diverse requirements that your product has based on your customers. So really, you want to be able to tie one product, deliver against a lot of different requirements, but still, not have to go and deliver one-off solutions that you have to engineer around. The benefits are probably pretty self-evident, but it includes things like an increased product portfolio flexibility, improved product development efficiency, carryover between product families, so that way you're able to reuse as much elements when you're bringing new product families to market. Improve management of those configurations, either the need to manage them long term or just managing what it is that you're delivering to market. Better ability to handle outsourcing and supplier management because you've got a better control over how those elements are reused and able to command and control where your risks are in your supply chain, as well as improve system design and integration. You better functional integration points between those. So the benefits are probably pretty clear, but the reality is that managing platform products is not an easy task. You've got this one core configurable product that you can derive a frankly startling amount of different product variation out of. And with each of those needing to manage their own set of product deliverables and that have their own validation to them, that can be quite a challenging task. And that's why we've built all the powerful capabilities inside of Windchill that we have. So let's take a quick look at what goes into managing platform products inside of Windchill. The first element is your platform architecture, which really translates into a managed product structure in which you can organize all of the elements of reusability or configurability that's going to go into your platform product. So this involves a hierarchical part structure, establishing a place that you can hang all of your digital product definition off of. So CADs, BOMs, DMU, control logic. This is where all of that really gets hung off of, which is the part structure. But also an ability to flexibly create that from either the top down, organizing them how you want to from a hierarchy perspective, or the bottom up, where you have elements and portions of that that likely root their definition inside of the CAD world. The second is a set of controls. As great as it is to have an architecture that aligns all of the different portions of your product, without any way to control when you use what portions, you're kind of at a loss. So really, those controls in Windchill take the form of expressions. Expressions help apply a set of logic for how or when something is going to get used based on a configuration rule. This can be configuration rules based on sales needs, technical needs, manufacturing choices, effectivity options, the whole nine yards. It really is all about how and when you use those particular products, portions of your product. The next is really from the ground up identifying what we call modules. These are the kind of atomic elements of interchangeability in your platform product. We know that in some situations we use module A and in some situations we use module B. And, we may have a set of tires for one version of our product or a set of tracks in a different version, depending on the terrain that it's going to operate in. But the fact that these elements really represent the portions of the product that can be interchanged and have standard interfaces between those elements of the product enable the high level of reuse of all of those components that go inside of your core configurable product. Lastly, is important is the configurations. The configurations capture what are the particular combination of those elements which are interesting that you want to deliver to market. This can be either, a set of markets that you want to go into, a set of particular ordered variants that a particular customer wants to build. And from that, you're able to capture those specific configuration choices and rules. You are also able to generate variant bill of materials. So you're actually able to generate a new BOM, which you can issue an order against, and you can go ahead and go off and build. But it's really all about how you manage all those configurations and families within those configurations that you want to deliver to market. Now, once you've invested and put all of these elements in place, that's when the power really starts to get unlocked and you can carry that throughout your organization. From there, you're able to analyze and validate key configurations that either represent products, families that you want to bring to market, or a particular product that you intend to build. And you can use that information to do costing analysis, identify heat maps of where your spend is in a particular product configuration or product family. You can identify interferences where maybe you identify that there's a product you want to build, but for whatever reason that there are interferences that won't allow you to build that particular product configuration. And you can also share that in order to generate downstream deliverables, service manuals that you may need to be able to tag along with a particular product configuration, manufacturing planning. How are you going to do all of the operations to assemble these different variants that you want to bring to market, as well as driving that into augmented reality by being able to seed and generate those variant bills of material in order to build up a custom tailored augmented reality experience. All right, so now that we've seeded ourselves kind of in what is platform structures and what are the benefits and how does that help us manage our core configurable product strategy or our platform product strategy, let's take a look at all the exciting different ways that we can actually use that information. So now that we've invested, we can bring that powerful platform structures and Creo view together to do things like design collaboration, where you can highlight products with particular or problems with particular variants that have been identified by the shop floor. You can use it to configure your products or help your customers understand what it is that a particular configuration needs by doing that right from your product structure and switching between them. You can do things like use that information to help drive BOM transformation. You can use that filtered product to identify and visually consume how you may need to reorient that bill of material to manufacture in a particular plant. We can validate all of our key product configurations using interference detection. Let's make sure that we can actually build this particular variant. And in this case, it looks like there's a problem with the tie rod. You can generate technical illustrations off of that configured product context. So you can actually open that in Creo Illustrate and generate all of your technical illustrations from that configured product. You can use those technical illustrations to drive it down to work instruction delivery down on the shop floor, where you can guide operators how to assemble something. And lastly, you can use that to actually feed into augmented reality, where you can take a configured product inside of Windchill, put it side by side, maybe a slightly different version of the product, see what's different than the version you've got out there on the shop floor. So all of those great capabilities are all at your fingertips once you've put in the work of defining a core platform inside of Windchill. All of that is fed through what we call dynamic visualization of the product structure based on how you've configured that inside of Windchill. So that's great, Rob. You say, this stuff has been around a bit, and we believe it. We're investing in a platform, but what's coming next? How are you going to help us deliver those even faster and make things easier for managing that information inside of Windchill? All right. So one of the things to keep in mind about platform structures in Windchill is that it's fundamentally built on the idea of filtering from the product structure being the architecture that understands all the possible variant configurable modules or variant things that can go inside of it, um, including things like positional variation. If I need to position something in position A or B, it has to occur twice inside the product structure. Same thing with material or appearance. So if I have to have a blue, a red, or a green variant, I have to have a copy that is blue, that is red, or that is green. Um, and so what that results in is it results in a lot of CAD duplication by making copies of this in additional positions or additional colors, and then maintaining the rules against those positions and locations, positions and colors and different geometrical options in order to maximize and allow Windchill to continue to be able to derive a particular configuration. This is manageable in the tens or the hundreds of configuration, but this amount of work necessary to capture every positional variation, every color variation, every geometrical variation is a lot of duplication of work, and it becomes a virtual design efficiency challenge as you get into the upper range of the configurable products, because it just takes a lot of overhead to continue to maintain that. Enter in the brand new capabilities inside of Windchill 12.0.2.0, which introduces Windchill Smart Platforms. So Windchill Smart Platforms is the idea that we want the platform structures inside of Windchill to be able to not just control what goes into a particular product structure by choosing choice A or choice B, but we all actually want it to have the intelligence to understand how to influence and build, how to place elements based on how your configuration rules go. If I select that I want fuel tank A to be placed on the passenger side of my fuel tank because I'm going into a particular market that it needs to be on the passenger side, or if it needs to be on the driver's side, I don't have to make copies. I can simply make that a configuration logic influencing how the product structure is built. So we're doing this by separating out what goes into the bill of material, which is still a product structure own thing, from how it is assembled, how it is visualized, which we want PLM to be able to influence based on configuration logic. Our initial focus is purely around positioning, and we're accomplishing this by creating a new element of the platform architecture to manage, which is called a positioning architecture. This positioning architecture is going to describe how particular configurable elements of your product structure are positioned relative to one another. This is a completely optional component on top of the existing configuration logic that you have in Windchill to help cut down on the amount of duplication or explosion of that structure size by having something other than the product structure manage how that's assembled, and then use that in real time to dynamically build or position elements correctly, and then open those back in CAD whenever you need to do design work. The platform architecture has been updated, as I said, to have this positioning architecture. The controls have been updated to assign expressions against the positioning architecture to choose when it would be placed in one position or another. And the modules have all been updated to expose the coordinate systems or the construction geometry, which describes how to configure a particular element in the context of the positioning architecture. This could maximize the way that you're likely already organizing your configurable modules or your module variants today and assembling them to things like skeleton or fixed position systems. So let's take a look at what this new feature looks like. So I've got here a configurable product structure, a Acme truck, and I need to incorporate in its positioning architecture a new configurable module, which is my fuel tank. When I open up the positioning architecture, you'll see it's very graphically oriented, where it draws out the relationship between each of the configurable elements of my product structure and establishes interfaces in which define how they get assembled together. You can think of this as a parent-child of how a child gets assembled to a parent. You can interact as easy as just dragging and dropping it onto the graph. You can draw the relationships by drawing the arrow between them. And then by selecting it, you can then choose what we call the locators or conceptual ways in which these configurable elements can be positioned. In this case, a fuel tank may go on the driver front, mid, and rear, or on the right-hand side in 3 different positions as well. And then the fuel tank might be left or right mounted depending on if it's on the driver's side or the passenger side. By describing those and then using the configuration rules or expressions to assign when it goes to each position, the goal is to isolate that to one locator or another on each side, so that way we can assemble them together in space. Now, that's great. The positioning architecture describes conceptually how that all works, but one particular module variant, or in this case, a fuel tank, may be shaped differently than the other. So how do I accommodate that they assemble themselves subtly different? Well, that's where the locator editor comes in for the configurable modules. This is where the users will map the conceptual locations that a positioning architecture chooses. That's really describing things, ideally speaking, for any fuel tank, and map that down to the actual coordinate systems that are tied to each of the module variants. You can do so by selecting from the drop-down and selecting a coordinate system which has been exposed from CAD, or doing that graphically by selecting it in the visualization and right-clicking and assigning it to a locator. Once that's been completed, then I can go ahead and check the results in. Now I've completely defined how to use my fuel tank in the context of this Acme truck. And now I may want to configure something. So you can simply go to the option filter here, make some design choices. And once I've made these design choices, the Windchill Smart Platform will be intelligent enough to use the positioning architecture to solve the resulting position for this specific configuration based on the rules that you've chosen. So we can see here, it knew to place the battery box on the cab and the fuel tank on the driver's side, but I can just as well switch that in addition to the length of the frame, perhaps how I assemble my rear axle, and then Windchill will intelligently build the solution again based on how your positioning architecture works. I can take advantage of variant specifications by quickly switching between some stored variants that we know we want to go to market with. And we can see here the whole time, Windchill is in real time calculating the position based on how you defined how all of these elements interact with one another. Now I can select a particular variant. In this case, it's an EU market variant that we want to go into to work on, or maybe I'll switch to a North America variant. And I may want to do something with it. Maybe in this case, I'll go ahead and choose to open that in CreoView to do some validation. I can open that up in CreoView. I can go ahead and do something like an interference analysis. In this case, I may want to do some light validation on this configuration to make sure that there's no problems. And we can see here I can identify interferences with this particular configuration. Now, these may be design work that I need to do, or it may be configuration rules that I need to update because in this we don't want to be able to allow this particular configuration to come across. Now that's great. I've been able to dynamically visualize a set of a large amount of variants, simplify my product structure by managing positioning separately. But I still need to do design work. I still need to be able to work on this in CAD. So in addition to being able to visualize that, those same visualization and that dynamically positioned results can also be reflected back in CAD through the use of a design context, where it will build a new assembly and position all of the elements in space based on how the positioning architecture has described those elements interact. So you can use that same dynamic positioning capability to build new CAD assemblies, open them into the CAD tool, and do design work. In this case, I need to incorporate a new fuel filter into the design so that way I can make sure it's not going to clash with this battery box. And that looks perfect. All right. So that's the exciting new capabilities coming out in Windchill 12.0.2.0. I hope you guys have had a great, a great session. I hope you found value in this, and I hope you've had a great conference. And we'll talk to you later.